Good evening, everybody. Hope you guys are settling down at the end of the day here well. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Seahawks' top 30 visits because we now know more than two-thirds of them. We get 30 of them. So far, we have used 21, so I thought it'd be good to check back in again. Real quick, hope to see you guys on Twitch tonight. I should be streaming over there in a little bit. I'm gonna do some Elden Ring and Horizon Forbidden West tonight in all likelihood. Probably gonna start with Elden Ring, move to Horizon. One reason why I'm shouting that out is because I recently changed my OBS settings, and I believe the resulting streams look much better. I upped my bit rate by more than double. So come check it out and see if you can notice a difference. And the action should look a lot smoother on all my Twitch streams from here on out. And actually, my YouTube streams should also benefit from that. So hopefully that ends up being the case. But hope to see you there tonight. Okay, so we have ourselves 21 top 30 visits. Got 9 more. And I want to go over who we've looked at. Obviously, about half of these guys are guys I've already talked about. But some of them are new. Like in the last handful of days, we spent a top 30 visit on Jalen Carter. That was obviously the big news from a couple days ago. And let me just say one thing here, because I made a video about the Jalen Carter visit because I considered it to be very significant. And some people were saying, well, is it a smokescreen? Could it be a smokescreen? I mean, you said, some people were saying, like, oh, you said the quarterback visits were smokescreens. Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty big difference between using one of your 30 visits on a player and going to a college's pro day where you're probably looking at a large collection of players and taking a selfie with one of the players they have at that pro day. There is a difference here. All right. If we go to Ohio State's pro day and we're looking at CJ Stroud, we're also looking at Luke Whippler. We're also looking at Zach Harrison. We're also looking at Jackson Smith, the hyphen. We're also looking at DeJuan Jones. We're also You guys see what I'm saying here? You go to Florida's pro day. Yeah, you're looking at Anthony Richardson, but you're also going to look at somebody like Gervon Dexter potentially. You go to Alabama's pro day. There are probably 12 players that you're looking at. Bryce Young just being one of many intriguing prospects. So if you're there and you're like, hey, let's take this selfie, it'll take like 5 minutes and we get to cast a smokescreen. It costs us nothing since we're here anyway for other reasons. That's different than using one of your top 30 visits. So yeah, I don't think you're using top 30 visits for smokescreen purposes. Now, obviously, you don't draft everybody you visit with because you get way more visits than any team ever has draft picks. But I just want to stress that there is a clear difference between visiting a player's pro day at their college, where there are plenty of players you're probably looking at, and actually having that individual player in for a visit to your facility. But anyway, Jalen Carter is one of the new ones. Trenton Simpson was big news a couple days ago as well. He's one of the new additions to this list. I believe that Byron Young is also new. I've talked about him already in my videos, as well as Nick Herbig. So we're taking a look at some edge guys who may be there in late day 2 or early day 3, which makes sense to me if we're not going to go for Will Anderson. I really like the fact that we looked at Charlie Jones. He was a guy we had in a couple of days ago, and he was somebody who impressed me when I scouted him. He seemed like he was going to be a good receiver in the NFL. I really like that we scouted him. Also, kind of interesting, Jake Andrews is the one true center we visited with so far. And I did speak about Jake Andrews briefly in my center videos. I viewed him as being barely draftable, but probably 7th round worthy. And that's where the aggregate has him right now. So that's kind of interesting. We had him in. And the guys you see at the bottom of the list, some of them are new, some of them are old. Like, I think Robert Cooper is new, Drake Thomas is new, but the other 4 were from the first 10. Those are guys who are currently not expected to get drafted based on the aggregate big board. So looking at them, you're probably trying to get an idea of their value for maybe in the 7th round to secure them, and quite realistically, you're looking at them as a potential UDFA, excuse me. But yeah, you take a look at this, and first of all, I think this is another thing that kind of stresses the importance of not burning a top 30 visit on a player that you already know you don't want. That's why I say the Jalen Carter thing was not a smokescreen. This is 21 players. We have 9 left. So think of all the players that you might want the Seahawks to draft. You personally. I'm talking to you in the audience right now. Think of all those players. We got 9 visits left. And I mean, obviously, we met some of them at the combine. Obviously, we met some of them at their pro days. Maybe in some cases, we feel like we're good. Like, we know that we've dug around Anthony Richardson a lot. There is some reason to believe that interest is legitimate. We don't necessarily need to have him in for a top 30 visit. But think of the players that you want the Seahawks to consider drafting. It's probably going to be way more than 9 beyond this list. So you've got very limited remaining resources to get your top 30 visits in. You've got 9 left. You can't afford to waste them on players that you're not actually interested in. I would kind of argue that it's a little bit questionable to use your visits on guys who are probably going to go undrafted, but sometimes you just want to take a look at a guy and see, should we spend our 7th rounder on him to make sure we get him? I get that. But you should at least have some level of interest in anybody you have in the building. Now, you could have them in the building, look at them, and go, oh, wow, we don't like this at all. No, thank you. Please, show yourself out. Like, that can happen. Yeah, sure. But I would hope that at the very least, when they come in the building, there's somebody that you would strongly consider drafting if they're available to you at the right point. Now, looking at this list overall, you see way more defense than offense, which makes sense. The defense was the problem last year. You've got a lot of defensive line players like Jalen Carter and Adebawore. You've got the 3 edge guys, which I already mentioned. You've even down to a guy like a Robert Cooper. That's another defensive lineman. Calvin Avery too. You got some safeties. Like I think all the defensive backs on this list are safeties, which tells you that they are taking the departure of Ryan Neal seriously. And I have mixed thoughts on that. On the one hand, I like some of these safeties. Jamie Robinson, Florida State guy, is cool. There are other safeties in this class that I like, but it also highlights the fact that we needed Ryan Neal, and we're feeling the effect of not having him, which emphasizes the point that we, money not being a factor, would have wanted to keep him. So therefore, I think we can safely say that the reason why he's not here right now is money, and that's frustrating. So, mixed thoughts there. Oh, I'm sorry. Keely Ringo is actually the one defensive back we've looked at so far on this list that I don't really view as a safety, although he could play a mean safety, I think, one day. I will say that. The offensive players we're looking at have mostly been offensive linemen. The interest in guys who played tackle is a little bit confusing. I'm guessing we're trying to figure out which ones we can move to guard, because this is something that got pointed out on my Discord by a couple people. The Rams typically do that. They take tackles and move them to guard, so that way their guards have more mobility. So maybe we're looking at a guy like DeJuan Jones as a guard, which is not something I think most people would do, but maybe we are. There are the Clemson offensive lineman we looked at, and I think the Alabama one as well. Like, maybe we're looking at these guys as guards. That's how I'd read it. And everything else, pretty obvious and straightforward, I think, on this list. So that's what's going on. We got 9 more visits left. See you guys later. Go Hawks.